What's going on, everybody, and welcome into this edition of the Cards Hub Postgame. Brenden, Schaeffer, Ethan Hannaford, here with you on Sports Hub STL. Content brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours, and our postgame is brought to you by Hot Shots. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com. Ethan, it was bound to happen. The Cardinals have been tearing it up against some really elite starting pitching over the past week. You beat Paul Skeens. You pour more runs on the Paul Skeens than any team has in his life. I mean, going back to middle school, that dude hadn't given up 5 runs, and the Cardinals put 5 on him. And then you beat Aaron Nola. You beat Zach Wheeler. Last night, who the heck did they beat? Framber Valdez. It's been a really good week. Hunter Brown's pretty good too, though. He might be the best pitcher on the Astros when it's all said and done in 2025. And you know what? Tonight, he got the better of the St. Louis Cardinals. We'll talk about it. Our thoughts, your thoughts are welcome as well. Throw them into the comments section below. But Ethan, 2-0 loss for the Cardinals tonight. How are you reacting to this game in light of, yes, it's been a good streak for the offense, but it did come to an end tonight?
Yeah, I mean, this is a game where you tip your cap, and sometimes a pitcher has you beat. And tonight, Hunter Brown was excellent. I mean, this is a guy that last year was, one of the better pitchers in baseball, a sub 3.5 ERA, which is tough to do in this league. So that's a good pitcher over there. The Cardinals had opportunities. They were 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. They've been pretty dang good with runners in scoring position this year. I think they had 1 strikeout with runners in scoring position tonight. I think it was the Gorman one. So they were putting the ball in play still. They had a couple of lineouts in those situations. So, a couple of things go differently, maybe here or there. I think you could say that on the defensive side, the pitching side as well. Maybe you're looking at a different game, a different outcome. But at the end of the day, you got to score runs. Cardinals weren't able to do that tonight. You tip your cap. You go for the series win tomorrow.
I'm laughing at Hunter's comments. Some of you look forward to losses. Like, it's just one of those things. I feel like the last 2 nights, Sunday and Monday, were 2 of the most complete efforts you could possibly hope to see from the Cardinals. Like 7-0 on Sunday. You get 8-3 last night, which was really 8-0. It was Rodri Munoz giving up the 3-run homer in the last inning. And then the very next pitch, they won the game. Like, all facets of the game for the last couple of days have been really, really strong. Tonight, you had most facets of the game be really, really strong. The pitching was still very good. Erick Fedde goes 6 innings, has just kept passing the baton from starter to starter within that Cardinal rotation. And so as far as evaluating the team moving forward, like, we understand they lost this game. You have to feel good about the direction that's going. We'll see Steven Matz, his first opportunity in a rotation spot tomorrow, and what that ends up looking like tomorrow afternoon in the rubber game against Houston. But Fedde getting it done again, his ERA down to 3.43 for the young season after he gives up 1 run. It was earned. 6 hits allowed, 3 walks allowed. We've seen that as a little bit of a trend for Fedde early this year, trying to navigate around some of that traffic. But he did it very well tonight. Obviously, even we have the situation with Yordan Alvarez happening, as we talked about off air before we came on. Yordan. Eventually, Yordan Alvarez was going to get his. I think if he didn't hit a home run in this series just because of how good of a hitter he is and the fact that he was kind of due coming into this stretch, it would have been a surprise. And he gets one against Kyle Leahy, but I still feel very positive about the Kyle Leahy outing. Maybe the coolest moment of the game was the strikeout he had of Altuve with a changeup that made Altuve levitate at home plate. Basically, he had no idea what was going on swinging out of his shoes. So it's one of those things where, yeah, they lost the game. Yeah, the offense is not going to be able to get shut out every night and win over the long haul. And sure, they're back below 500, so that's a bummer. I'm still looking at this Cardinals team going, man, the recipe's there, because the facets of this team that I was most concerned about, which would have been the starting pitching, just thinking it wasn't necessarily going to be able to hold up. If you watch the second turn through the rotation and nothing else, we saw the third turn look really strong. And now so far, you've had Sonny and Erick Fedde go back-to-back this week.
Yeah, the team ERA, the starting pitcher ERA through now the last 7 starts is 1.05. 1.05, Brenden. Now, the second time through, it wasn't very pretty. It was, I think, double digits. But the Cardinals are showing at least that this is the second time through that they've continued looking pretty solid. I will agree. Erick Fedde, I wouldn't say had his best stuff tonight, but that's what percentage of starts are you going to have your quote-unquote best stuff? Maybe if you're lucky, half, probably not even that, though. Part of baseball is learning how to adjust on the fly and manufacture outs when you don't have your best stuff. And Erick Fedde, has the location been as accurate, as precise at times as he's wanted it to these last couple starts? No, I'm sure it hasn't. But he has learned how to, or he's learning, or I wouldn't say learning. He is adjusting and he's working through that. And he's still in large part putting up zeros on the board. Through his last 12 innings, he's allowed 1 earned run now. And the 1 earned run tonight was on at least the RBI was on a bloop single. So, I mean, I thought that in large part, I was impressed by Erick Fedde's performance tonight. I wouldn't say that it was, like I said, his best stuff, but that doesn't mean it wasn't a good outing in any way whatsoever. Kyle Leahy, I thought, looked pretty good tonight as well. Sometimes the best hitters in baseball are going to get the best of you. His stuff continues to improve. From an expectation, I would say, perspective, you look at what I guess the expectation was for him going into the year, and he is exceeding every single one that you set for him right now. And he's quickly gaining trust with Oliver Marmol because he's starting to get higher leverage innings, which I love to see. You know, there was a question mark going into the year. Was it going to be Roycroft that got some of those? Was it going to be Fernandez that got some of those? I didn't have Kyle Leahy early in the year pegged for the guy that was kind of, at this point, really your number 2 setup guy behind Phil Maton. I've really been impressed with the stuff that we've seen this year from Kyle Leahy to start off the year, and I hope that we get a continuation of that. I saw a comment here earlier, though. I think it was from Scott. Here it is. It says, this team has to get better at manufacturing runs the old-fashioned way. They had plenty of chances tonight and couldn't do anything. They were not good tonight with runners in scoring position. I'll give you that. They were 1 for 7.
Yeah.
But let's keep in mind, I pulled up the runners in scoring position numbers here for the Cardinals. Now, this doesn't mean that every single time that they're getting a hit with runners in scoring position, it's scoring a run necessarily. But it's a good measurement in large part for how they're doing with guys on second and third. Batting average is 277. That is 6th in baseball. On base percentage, 366. That's 4th in baseball. Slugging percentage, 462. That's 6th in baseball. And the OPS, it's 828. That's 6th in baseball. That's a recipe for success. So, Scott, I'm not sure if you just watched tonight's game or not, but the Cardinals have been – this was the area, I think, for the offense that you said had to improve the most in the offseason. They were bottom, 5 in baseball probably last year, their runners and scoring stats.
I think it was worse. I think it was worse than that.
So the numbers – prove the exact opposite of what you're saying. The Cardinals are manufacturing runs. They are not doing it with the slug, with the long ball. The Cardinals are performing much better than they were last year. Was tonight a poor example of that? Yes, but 1 game in 17, you'll take that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's okay to feel frustrated about the fact that you got such good pitching and you didn't get a win, right? And even though they have had good numbers, overall their numbers are good. Even still, counting tonight's effort, which was not a robust day offensively, the team-wide OPS is 786. That's tied for 3rd in baseball with the Chicago Cubs, only behind the Diamondbacks and the Yankees. And I think before tonight, the Cardinals were even higher up on that list. Hunter Brown, I think, is a guy that we're going to look back on at the end of the season as a breakout. And given the way that they have been able to tangle with some of those top arms in recent days over the past week or so, I'm still in a spot where I'm feeling okay about the offense. Like individual guys, you might go, okay, want to get that guy going. I think that was kind of the case with Victor Scott. You see him get a day off today as a result. Like I want to see the consistency from Jordan Walker. Been pretty impressed with what we've seen from Walker in the field, by the way. Had the 2 really good catches in the 3rd inning last night. And the play tonight where you mentioned the blue pit scoring the only run against Fedde, he sized that up to throw home and threw an absolute dart. I think he just didn't have quite enough time to be able to, like, it was clear he took that crow hop step and was able to really line it in. It got it there in a hurry. It was really fun to watch. So even still finding some positives in that regard. You're not going to win very many games scoring 0 runs, Ethan. It's just the reality of the situation. And I think because of the track record the Cardinals have had over the first 16 games of the year prior to tonight, like that's 10% of a season across which the Cardinals had one of the top offenses in baseball. Now they're going to have to continue doing that. They can't rest on their laurels and say, all right, we did it. They've got to continue to be that same offense. But at the end of the day, You are going to lose some games. It is frustrating when it happens and you're not above 500 yet as a team.
Yeah.
Continue to play the way that they're playing, though. And I'm talking about in all facets of the game. And I think they're going to find themselves on the right side of 500 sooner rather than later. As Todd mentions, you expect them to win every game. I don't think any team's ever gone undefeated. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's 100% how I view it too, Todd. I think the only distinction some fans that are more frustrated would make right now is, say that when you're 10-8 or 12-10 or get above 500, and then you go, okay, you could drop one. But it is what it is. It's early in the season, and I think, again, the most important thing, because it's the thing that coming in felt like the biggest variable where it could go really well or it could go really poorly, the starting rotation, and the fact that it's trending in the direction that it is trending, where I would say everybody other than Miles Michaelis right now has been plus over the past week and a half or 2 weeks or whatever it's been. And Michaelis gave you a very passable fifth starter type of outing the last time we saw him. It's going to matter what Steven Matz does because, again, as you pour into a six-man rotation, it's going to mean fewer arms and options out there to help coverage in the bullpen. But I couldn't watch tonight's game and go, oh, I can't believe it that they didn't. You're going to get shut out from time to time. I think those examples should be fewer and far between when it comes to this year's Cardinal team if they're able to continue producing. But I think the last two games before this one had been two of the better just offensive approaches that we have seen in some time. So it's one of those deals where, for me, kind of difficult to get too worked up over. But Cardinals fans in the comments, definitely jump into the live chat and let us know your thoughts. Ethan, we talked a little bit about it, but I want to jump back to the Kyle Leahy conversation. You mentioned him and talked about the leverage that he's potentially working himself into. And I would agree that Roycroft was supposed to be kind of the first up for that opportunity and just didn't have the command. It's so funny with Leahy. I believe it was 2023 when we first got a glimpse of him. And it was kind of when everybody was coming through in mop-up roles. And I thought, I don't really know what purpose this guy's serving right now. The leaps he has made since we first saw him at the big league level to where pitching ninja needs to be all over that changeup he threw to Altuve. That was just such a sword type of pitch, whether we talked about StatCast finding it as a sword or not. I've been very impressed by Leahy too. And even to start this year, he was sort of, and still is kind of that guy. Yeah, he'll go multiple for you to kind of get you through. I think as we go along, guys who can throw pitches like that are going to be getting more and more types of opportunities for those moments that matter late in games.
Yeah, and those you seeing those pitches, they come from confidence to be able to throw those pitches against guys like Jose Altuve, who for the past 8-10 years in baseball has been one of the best hitters. So I mean, like, you can see the confidence for him continues to grow. I don't know if Oliver Marmol initially planned on throwing him 2 innings tonight. I think that because he got through, it took only 8 pitches to get through his first inning of work. He sent him out there for another inning. So just because of how good he looked, fair enough. I mean,
down one, that's more of a down one situation. You're going to be a little bit more willing to extend somebody and try to get that coverage too.
Sure. Yeah. No doubt about that. Totally. But I mean, and that's been a huge area of struggle for the Cardinals bullpen early in the year, is not Helsley, not Helsley being able to finish games, excluding the Boston one, of course, but that we know that's going to be an outlier for him. I don't have concerns about obviously Phil Maton or even JoJo Romero. The problem hasn't been holding leads with your guys at the back end of the bullpen. It's been keeping in games that you're within grasp of, that you're within reach of. That's where the bullpen has struggled early in the season. So Kyle Leahy, whether he ends up being a guy that's going to get some opportunities, maybe some opportunities when you're in tie ball games, you're up depending on the usage of Phil Maton. He might get some of those opportunities, but he's going to be used a lot probably in situations like he was tonight, where it's a close game, but perhaps they're down, but you need to rely on someone that you can trust to keep you in ball games. And we have seen that happen this year for the Cardinals on multiple occasions where all of a sudden it's a close ball game and then it's not. So for him to keep them within reach is encouraging, and let's hope that we continue to see that pattern from him, and hopefully we continue to see the improvements that we've seen in recent outings from John King, from Ryan Fernandez, and in most part, I've liked what I've seen from Roderick Munoz in his first 3 outings.
Yeah, I mean, and those roles in the bullpen really do matter. I can think back even to when Mike Schilt was managing the Cardinals and would talk about, I can't use the same 2 or 3 guys every night. Yeah, and the same conversations over the years that Ollie Marmol has been managing the team. it's one of those things that anytime I feel like social media or fans that are watching the games and they see a guy give up a run, and it's a situation like tonight where it was kind of close, but then you give up a run or two and the game starts to get out of hand. Now tonight the Cardinals never scored, so it really wouldn't have mattered. But that can be sort of a deflating thing when you feel like you're in a game and then those middle relief types aren't able to figure it out and be able to keep the game right there where it is. But you can't use your top, your A squad every single time that you're down by a run. Bullpens have roles for a reason. And so those guys that are making up the back half of your bullpen, not the closer, not the right-handed setup man, not the left-handed setup man, not your seventh inning guy, the other 3 or 4 guys that have to mix into a bullpen, those are really important roles to see develop for the teams that kind of find that extra gear. That can be the difference from, teams that are really good winning 85, 86 games. If they don't have the middle relief crew to be able to keep games tight like that, that's the reason you don't end up winning 88, 90, 92 games and maybe making the playoffs. That can be just in that portion of your roster enough to cost you. So to have guys like Leahy, we'll see on Munoz. He looked really sharp the first time we saw him, striking out a couple of tough Philly batters, and really like the way that he was mixing on both sides of the plate. I think his repertoire can be one that does well in the bullpen, but then, we see him give up that 3-run home run the next time. Tonight did a solid enough job. It's going to be a work in progress, but certainly those roles are going to be meaningful, and you're going to almost need 3 or 4 of those guys to be guys that can give you multiples. Leahy, Munoz is a former starter, so he should be able to do it. John King, I think, can be that guy if he can get sharpened up. Those guys might just have to cover, as Ollie Marmol talked about, Ethan, when it comes to going to a 6-man rotation and having fewer relievers. You can throw that comment back up on the screen, and we can give a little bit of a look to that. Nobody had high expectations for this team, but how can you watch this team and not be excited for the future? Sit back and enjoy the ride and the growth of some of these players. That's an attitude that I understand won't please everybody, Ethan, but it is kind of the way I'm viewing this season right now, with a sprinkle of, hey, they might surprise you and still end up in the mix when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I completely agree. Right? I mean, we've talked plenty about this, about what the expectation was for the offseason. It was set, and then they had to adjust because of everything with Arenado. So it was a little bit of a weird expectation going into the season, right? But regardless, we're seeing a lot of young guys get opportunities, and a lot of young guys have performed so far, and I think have given fans reason to be excited for the product that we're going to see in upcoming years. And there's a lot of guys that are knocking on the door as well. And I'll say this too, as I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about this 6-man rotation, but it is going to be interesting. We'll see how it goes. I'm curious. Steven Matz.
You sound skeptical. You sound a little skeptical.
I am a little bit skeptical, but and I said this on last night's postgame show. If we continue to see what we've seen from the bullpen, now it's been in small portions because the starting rotation's been so good the last 7 games. We haven't had to see much of the bullpen, but if we continue to see them improve and be more of what we expected them to be, then I feel a lot better about it. But if the bullpen continues to have struggles, then it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. And, we talked a little bit about where the depth that is in AAA right now. I mean, hopefully Roycroft can figure out some of that stuff, get that sinker going. Nick Anderson is a guy that I think a lot of people expected to be on this 26-man to start off the season. He's down in AAA, but I don't think he's on the 40-man. So you'd have to clear a spot for him. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% positive.
That's right. They have not. I don't believe that they have added him. Otherwise, he'd be here.
And then, Graceffo, we saw him get a little action. He got beat up against Boston. I'll give him a break on that one. That's a tough place to pitch against a really good red hot lineup. So there are some pieces. If I don't expect the Cardinals to roll with the same 6 unless they are just lights out, it wouldn't surprise me if a Roddery Munoz ends up getting optioned again at some point, and they get just to keep things fresh. They're going to have to at some point, because the reality is that the starting rotation is not going to give you 6 innings of 1-run ball every night. I've loved this.
Maybe it will. As this week.
If they do, then great. I'll be the first one to say, let's go. This is amazing. But I mean, what's a fair expectation, right, for like a team ERA or for a starting pitching ERA? Are the Cardinals going to give you 6 innings every night? If they do, then great. But I I would assume, right, that they're going to have to probably rely on at least a couple of those pieces to mix in at AAA to get them through however long of this 6-man stretch it's going to be.
And I actually like that topic. We can do that real quick. When I look at the rotation, and this is kind of how I felt even before tonight, you see Erick Fedde tack on another strong outing. Like, ballpark it for me. What's Sonny Gray's ERA going to be this year? Are we talking 3.5, 3.6? Maybe even it's more like a 3.8 like it was last year. But you kind of check that box and go, okay, pretty good arm in your rotation. Erick Fedde, I think is going to be in the similar range. If it's 3.8, 3.9, what did I say he was down to after today? He's already down to 3.43, mixing in a really rough one in Boston. All right, let's say conservatively, he's going to be a little worse than he's been, which is like 3.7, 3.8 like he was since he arrived with the Cardinals. Still pretty good arm in your rotation. Give it a check mark. Andre Palante's got a 2.2 right now, Ethan. That's the one. I'll just real quick, give me a number. What's Palante's finishing ERA? Give me a range. I'll give you a little, let you ballpark it a little bit.
I'll say between 3 and 3.3.
Okay, and I'll even go a little higher than that, not as a slight on Palante, but to play this conservatively for Cardinals fans who would say I'm drinking the Kool-Aid here. Give me like a 3.5 to a 3.8 for Palante.
Okay. Sure.
And honestly, anything below 4, give me a 3.9, even if that's what ends up happening. You're talking about your top 3 in the rotation, all sub 4. Okay, keep moving that along. Where are we at for Matthew Liberatore? Because he might have some of the highest upside of the bunch. Offhand, I think he's around 3.9 right now. Does he end up as a guy that can slide underneath that 4.00 threshold, and he's the 4th in your rotation to do it? Suddenly you're going, is this a middling rotation or is it a pretty good one? Now everybody's going to say, well, Miles Michaelis, what's his number? And nobody's going to like me saying this. His number actually doesn't matter that much. What matters is how many quality-ish starts can he give you as the worst starter in your rotation? Can Miles Michaelis go 5-3 like he did earlier this week? And can he have that be the floor? Can he go, if he gives up 4, is it because he went 6 innings? Can he go 6 innings and 4 runs? Can he be that old school 90s era number 5 starter that just keeps you in games, and that's the way we grade him? What he cannot do again is go 2 2/3 and give up 8 earned, 9 total runs. That doesn't vibe with the 6-man rotation coming up.
Right.
But do you have room in your heart, Cardinals fans, to envision a world where Miles Michaelis is just a dude with a 5 ERA, but he gets there via not getting shelled? He goes 5 and gives up 3. Every now and again, he'll go 6 and give up 2. He'll go 6 and give up 1. And that ends up with a 5 ERA at the end of the season, which, if he does that, he probably doesn't make it to the very end of the season. Eventually, the Cardinals might want to see more. But I could see a world in which he's your number 6 starter who he keeps you in the game. That's his only job. And if you go 5 innings and give up 3, your ERA is 5.4. That's not, people aren't going to be cheering for that. But did it keep him in the game the other day? The offense was quiet that game, so they lost it. But that's a world where I'm just drawing up a diagram to win 80 some odd games and get the Cardinals in the mix. I think that version of a rotation, which we just pretty conservatively lined up, gets you there. Now we'll see from Matt's tomorrow what it looks like. Am I crazy though with this? The Cardinal rotation just has to be that middle of the pack group. And then, hey, they do still have a top 5 offense even after tonight's struggles. What if that's your recipe to maybe be in the mix here? Where have I gone wrong? What am I not seeing in that evaluation?
Oh, I think you're pretty spot on. I think that what I would say the lineup and the rotation at this point do have, and maybe if we're seeing a Sonny Gray from 2 years ago, he's still the best. He still has the best stuff probably of the 5, but
yeah,
it's for the most part pretty even from 1 to 9, right? There isn't at this point that superstar, that MVP caliber guy that's going to put up those numbers and carry the lineup. Now it's gonna fluctuate. There's gonna be times where there's gonna be different guys carrying, but when you look at it from top to bottom, I think you're gonna see a lot of similarities in a lot of these guys' number. It's not like you're gonna see overwhelming power from them. You're gonna see a lot of extra base hits. You're gonna see a lot of good contact, good OBPs probably. That's what you're gonna see from a lot of this lineup. In a similar way with the starting pitching, I don't think there is a Cy Young candidate right now on this starting rotation, right? But like everyone's pretty serviceable. No one has crazy high strikeout material, and we know Sonny Gray can have that, but we also know that early in the year the velo's continuing to tick up, but it's still not where it was last year. So I mean, like he's created a lot more soft contact early in the season. So I think that's something I would say is a similarity. Samuel had a good question earlier, and I think this is more where the frustration is, right? For fans, we bring up if Miles Mikolas can be the 5-3 guy, how many innings still is that keeping from prospects? And I'm not even saying that I understand the frustration, but I understand where the Cardinals are going for. It's a long season. It's 162 is a lot on pitchers, especially in today's day and age of baseball. So I think the idea, right, that the Cardinals think is that, yes, these young guys are going to get opportunities, but also do we have 10 to 12 pitchers deep that we trust to be able to give starts to in a season where the Cardinals now all of a sudden kind of find themselves competing earlier in the year? I don't know if they feel like they do. If you just
they don't.
Mikolas, yeah.
I can just tell you now that they don't. You know why? Because Quinn Matthews is on the IL. Cooper Jerpy just had Tommy John surgery. Yep. Tink Hence is out on the 60-day IL. He's going to be out for months. He's going to be out for the majority of the season if you're putting him on the 60-day IL already in the minors. They don't have the prospects. Now, Micah McGreevy is still the one that deserves to be here.
Yeah, totally.
You don't in a situation where all your depth behind him is crumbling already. Like the big league roster has been pretty healthy, especially on the pitching side so far, knock on wood. You've lost Mason Wynn and Ivan Herrera for a bit. You had a little bit of a spell without Gorman. The minor league pitching, the depth in terms of pitching in this organization is trashed already. Because it happens. Because that's what happens to pitchers.
From here, look at it from where it is now to where it was a year ago. You say it's trash now. It was even worse a year ago.
Yeah. And so, like, think about this. We were saying in spring training, Michael McGreevy has to be in the rotation. And everybody says, you know, we get it. He's the next up, and we want to see what it looks like, and he's deserving of a spot, and he is. But if you had said, well, we can't go April 1st without McGreevy in there, send Mikolas to the curb. Okay, now McGreevy's in there, and now you've got all your starters in St. Louis. Who's the next one when somebody gets hurt? Because now all of the answers that Cardinals fans would have had, they're all on the injured list. All of them. And then you can look at the numbers for the guys that aren't. Ian Bedell, Sem Roberts. It's not – go check out a game log. Go check out a Memphis Redbirds stat page.
Yeah.
Graceffo. I mean, that's where the Cardinals are right now, where for those who would say Mikolas is worthless, he has no value. If he goes 5-3 every fifth or sixth day now, I am here to tell you, and you might not like it, but you might have to take it as the medicine. That's got value. Even though it's a 5.4 ERA, I am telling you, the bottom fell out of the Cardinal rotation in 2023, and then we saw Casey Lawrence and Jacob Barnes and all these random humans that were pitching for the Cardinals in 2023 down the stretch because Andrew Suarez, they just had to cover innings.
Yeah.
Because the Cardinals were like, wow, we're not going to make the playoffs this year. Let's just punt. And people would say, well, why don't you bring in prospects to do that? They didn't have any. What do you think Chaim Bloom's here doing? He's revamping a player development system that had fallen behind the pace when it comes to developing and especially developing pitchers. So that's where they were in 23, where they said, dudes off the street, come pitch. We're just going to finish out the season with you guys. Last year, we came in, the Cardinals wanted to see the Graceffos and the McGreevys take a step in 2024. They both kind of didn't. They stalled out a little bit, and then the year went along, and we saw a little bit more from both of them. To now coming into this season, it was like, okay, they're going to be ready to go in this season. But at the end of the day, we're going to see. Graceffo is going to have another chance, and McGreevy is still waiting for his first one. But behind those two guys, everybody else that you would have said, they're not healthy or they're not performing in AAA.
I want to just Aaron commenting, accept the mediocrity. I don't think it's acceptable.
If I said that, you can quote me on it and find it, and I'll give you $100. But his comments are always stupid, so I'm not doing it tonight, Aaron.
What I was going to say is I think it's a recognition of like where the organization is right now. They've admitted to some of how they've gotten behind on things.
Sure, they're fixing those things. Yeah,
or they're working to correct those things. The expectation is not for this team to be a World Series contender. So why are we viewing them as so? Like, I think that like we need to. I think that's the thing right there. We know what the expectation is for Cardinal baseball in St. Louis. We know what it is, and we know what the desire for both fans and for everyone alike is to get back to that point. But we also have to be able to realistically say the product's not there yet. Like, I think there's potential, and there are certain things that we're seeing earlier in the season that get you excited about where it could go, but it's not there. So I just had to address that real quick.
No, I'm just calling it like I'm seeing it, Aaron. I see all of your comments. Most of them are ridiculous. I understand you're frustrated, dude. Nobody's sitting here saying the Cardinals are a first place team right now. They're in the mix, and then you play 162 games to decide whether or not they're going to be that. So time's going to tell. We're going to see. We do know that we have a playoff team in St. Louis that people are going to be excited to talk about coming up in a little bit on Sports Hub STL, because the Blues are getting the job done. And when it comes to what I'm about to tell you about, DraftKings Pick 6, you can turn your knowledge of, maybe it's hockey, maybe it's baseball, maybe it's NBA basketball, whatever sport is your sport, you can turn that knowledge into cash today with DraftKings Pick 6. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly with just a $5 entry, and a DraftKings Pick 6 is now available in Missouri. So download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Oh, I have to do something.
There we go.
Yeah, thank you for picking up where I dropped the ball. So we are going to get out of here pretty shortly to make way for the Blues guys, because the Blues did get the win that they needed to get into the playoffs. But real quick, we'll address Kenneth's question on the way out, asking the current AAA rotation. Yeah, it's bleak, Kenneth, because Cooper Jerpy, who was at Springfield, was maybe going to be somebody that you could bring in when you lose Quinn Matthews. Nope, you've lost Jerpy. He's going to the IL for a full year with the Tommy John surgery. Tink Hence was another guy you're hoping to see in AAA. He's been on the injured list with a rib cage strain, and Quinn right now on the injured list. We'll see what that looks like. So you're talking about, and Ethan, if offhand you know anybody I'm missing, Ian Bedell's out there, Sam Roberts is out there. Graceffo, I don't know if they've been using him starter versus reliever since he was optioned back down to Memphis, but he is in that mix as well. It's been a group of guys that now they're going to have to be able to add to cover depending on how long Quinn Matthews is going to be out.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I think you mentioned most of the names that are notable for fans
in like the prospect category, anyway.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull them up here real quick to get a look at the box score. Did you mention Sam Robertson?
Yeah, and he pitched tonight. He's one of those guys that has struggled, and I mean we kind of saw him struggle a little bit in the Grapefruit League as well. But he's in that list. Ian Bedell. He is somebody that, as a Mizzou guy, I would love to see be able to get it figured out. He pitched pretty well on Sunday. 4 innings, gave up just 1 run, 2 hits, and 1 walk, had 6 strikeouts. But the ERA is 7.7 for the season. So
yeah,
it's one of those deals where
Robertson did look pretty good tonight as far as the box score goes. 5 innings, 3 hits, shutout ball, one run unearned. And then someone we didn't mention earlier when we were talking about the bullpen pieces, Riley O'Brien, also another guy that will at some point probably be up with the major league club, depending on how the 6-man rotation goes. It's been a little bit of a bumpy start in AAA for him, but we've seen what he can be. So let's hope that he can turn things around and be a part of that mix as well at some point.
Yep, and obviously McGreevy down there too, and he's first in line when the Cardinals need somebody. He'll be the one they call upon. And Samuel says no one talks about Bedell. I'm hoping to be able to talk about Bedell because I will be a homer for one thing, and that's Mizzou. So even though the comments might think I'm a homer for the Cardinals, I will definitely cop to being a homer for Mizzou. I don't make any apologies for that. But this has been Cards Up Postgame. We're going to get out of here so you guys can get set to break down the Blues win over the Utah Hockey Club to clinch a playoff spot. There will be playoff hockey in St. Louis a week from now, maybe less. I don't know the dates offhand, but that's all coming up. This has been the Cards Hub Postgame presented by Hot Shots and brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Thank you guys all for your comments, for watching, for participating, and we will talk to you next time on the program. Stay tuned to the channel. Coming up soon will be the Blues Hub post-game show after their big win over Utah. For Ethan, I'm Brenden. We'll see you guys soon.